Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Scott Selections here on Monday, May 6th. Before we end up talking about today's card, we'll quickly recap what happened yesterday. We ended up losing with the Nuggets and Trailblazers first half under, which brings our losing streak to about, roughly it's either 80 or 90 straight. I don't really know, either or. No, but in reality, it's an ebbs and flows thing, and we will pick it back up hopefully sooner rather than later. Other than that, though, just recap some of the other games. They say that a broken clock is right twice a day, which is roughly 2 more times than I'm right in basketball. The Philadelphia 76ers, I did think Toronto would give them a run for their money, and they did. They ended up winning outright. I thought Philadelphia would do a better job of dealing with Toronto with Siakam out. But either or, Philadelphia proved what I already knew, which is that Brett Brown's an overrated coach, and that Toronto would probably win the series in 7 games, 6 or 7. And meanwhile, Denver, that was one of the only plays I actually got right. Where I said that Denver would actually cover the +3 and potentially win the game outright, and they did. Other than that, going into hockey, I actually did get that one right with the Blues as well as the live bet under. I know that by the time of recording, it was already in the first period, but it was 1-1, and St. Louis ended up winning. It was 2 goals in the first period. I said you should take the live bet under, and it ended up totaling a 5. So if you ended up live betting that under, you would have gotten a nice win. If it makes anybody feel any better, besides the play of the day, which ended up losing, I also had the Diamondbacks money line yesterday at +125 against the Rockies, and my own personal money there, which I didn't share with anybody. And they blew a 4-run lead in the 8th inning, including a 3-run triple to Tapia, and they lost. So that's just kind of the run that we are currently on. But either or, as for play of the day, we will not be having one today, not because of the fact that I've gotten discouraged or anything. It's just a matter of the fact that something actually on a positive stuff is actually going on for me. I am taking my last college exam this afternoon. So it's a bright side there. So I'm going to be currently studying for the next couple of hours. So I thought I might as well give out my video. Yep, Jeremiah, I'm sorry about that. My bad. It just didn't work out there. I thought that it was a solid play. And then first quarter, both teams exploded. And then the third quarter roughly totaled 40 points. My bad about that. Hopefully we'll turn it around sometime soon. We're still up overall in the chat, on the plays, I should say, but it has definitely not been a good run, to say the least. But we'll be giving out some of the leans for today, as the leans have been generally profitable despite the play of the day. Just a quick reminder that if you are following my Twitter, I have already uploaded a couple of tennis plays that I do like tomorrow. Despite the current slump that we are in, we are actually still undefeated in our tennis plays at 3-0, and I have uploaded 2 of them. Yep, it's all good. Yeah, sorry about that, though. I was a fan of the under, but either or, it just didn't work out. So sorry I had to ruin your parlay there. But I'm sure we will bounce back nicely moving forward. Just to quickly go into the NHL games on May 6th, you have a battle between the Bruins and Columbus Blue Jackets in Game 6. Very entertaining Game 5 there, as you had a really entertaining third period with roughly 4 goals in the span of about 4 minutes. It's a great game. Boston ended up winning to make the series they're a lot more competitive as it is now. And in this game, I actually like Columbus to get the job done here. I know that currently the Bruins have a shot at moving into the semifinals of the NHL. But either or, I like Columbus in this. Both teams have still been really even. And similarly to the reason why I like the Blues winning yesterday was the fact that I think the series has 7 games written all over it. And for that reason, I will be siding with Columbus in this game. And I will also be siding to the over 5.5. Both teams did a lot offensively in the third period in particular as the game opened up. I wouldn't be surprised to see a potential 4-2 game here, but I do like Columbus to force a Game 7. I think the Bruins have done a great job adjusting as they took a 3-2 series lead in the last game. But Columbus has shown a lot of heart, and the Bruins have definitely struggled containing Panarin and some of the other threats for Columbus. And I think that Columbus, with the home crowd in Ohio, will be able to get the job done and force a Game 7. And the late game is between the San Jose Sharks and the Colorado Avalanche. Avalanche were favored by -125, down to roughly -115 in most spots. And the total is at 5.5 with more juice towards the over in this game. In terms of the game itself, I'm still going to lean with the Sharks here. Sharks did a great job of winning a very tough game to give them a nice 3-2 series lead in that series as well. And for me, this is just one of those series where I simply just don't see – I didn't have the series going 7 games before the series, and I still think that San Jose is better than Colorado. I know that we ended up betting on that a couple of days ago. We ended up losing because Colorado had a great performance with Grubauer, and Grubauer has still been an absolute brick wall as he was fantastic in the last game as well, despite the team's inability to come out with a victory. But for me, I still lean to San Jose. I think San Jose is still the better all-around team. I think Martin Jones has been pretty good. I think if San Jose can prevent McKinnon from scoring, then I think San Jose will win. And I think there's a reason why money has come in on San Jose this early, and I think that the Sharks will be able to close this game out. Yeah, for me, I personally agree with that statement. In terms of closing it out, it also depends on how much you factor in home ice. I know that home ice is important, but you have to remember that the Sharks did win the first road game in Colorado in Game 3. So they have won in Colorado before. It doesn't change the fact that overall this season, I've given out the record in past plays, but San Jose's owned Colorado this entire season. And Colorado, I do like Grubauer. I think he's definitely proven something to me after his abysmal showing with the Capitals last year in the playoffs before he got benched for Holtby and they ended up winning the title. But for me, I will lean to the Sharks there. I think the Sharks are the better team. And I will also lean to Columbus to force a Game 7. And I will lean to the over in the Bruins game, and I will lean to the under in the San Jose-Colorado game. However, the issue that I have with the under is that since it is an elimination game in both games in that case, but for Columbus, that's why I like the over, because some teams, if they will be losing, will be extra desperate to try to pull the goalie a couple of times, regardless of how many empty net goals they're going to give up, because it's an elimination game. That's why I'm a little bit skeptical to the full game under with Colorado, because if this game is 2-1 or even 3-1 with about 3 minutes to go, you're going to be sweating that one pretty badly, as there will be the potential for multiple empty net goals. So in terms of elimination games, I'll always lean towards the over rather than the under. But I do like the way that both goalies have played. And it looks like Colorado has played a little bit more conservatively in recent games. So I will be leaning to the under in that game, maybe even more on the first period under. But something that we've noticed that since basketball has not been going well, we might give out a brief lean for NBA, but nothing serious. I will be focusing more on MLB because that's how we've done pretty well so far. I know that most of the original profit came from college basketball, but clearly NBA is currently my worst sport. So we will be pushing that to the back seat a little bit, and we'll be focusing more on baseball rather than the NBA. And we will try to provide some more profit with the MLB leans moving forward. You have one early game at 12:35 between the Giants and the Reds. A total's at 8.5, and the Reds are currently favored at roughly minus 140 with a slight amount of buyback on the Giants. Pomerantz versus Desclafani. Overall, I actually like Desclafani. I think he's pretty good, and I actually like how the Reds offense has played this entire series. I know that they have choked away some big leads in the series, including that monumental collapse. They were up roughly, I don't remember if it was 11-0 or 8-0. I believe that was on Friday before they ended up blowing the game in extra innings. I still lean to the Reds. I don't like Pomerantz in the spot. The Reds offense is finally clicking. In terms of this game, I would lean to the over because both offenses have actually played well, but I will lean to the Reds in that game. Moving on, you have the White Sox versus the Indians. Indians are laying roughly 230. It's Bauer versus Nova. I don't have any thoughts on this game. I'd lean to the Indians, but you get no value on that. But Bauer is significantly better than Nova. As a former Yankee fan, I can tell you Nova was good for roughly 1 year because he led the league in run support 1 year, and he won roughly 19 to 20 games. But overall, he's a ground ball pitcher. He doesn't force enough ground balls, and he's been tortured by the long ball this season. And I know the Indians' offense hasn't been great, but Lindor is actually back in the lineup, and they have been looking slightly better offensively. I still don't trust that bullpen whatsoever. So if you do want to bet the Indians, I would look to the Indians' first 5. And if you potentially wanted some underdog money, I would look at the White Sox second half with the money line there, because even though both bullpens aren't great, the Indians' bullpen is still terrible, and I don't expect it to improve at any point during the regular season unless they trade somebody. Brad Hand's good, but since they lost Andrew Miller, they don't have a setup man or anything like that. So I would personally lean to the White Sox second half money line if you want some type of juicy underdog price available. Moving on, you have the Mariners versus the Yankees with Felix Hernandez and CC Sabathia in the battle of former superstars, future Hall of Famers, but currently average pitchers. And for this game, Yankees opened up at minus 160 down to minus 140 in 5 dimes, mostly minus 145 market wide. As a Yankees fan, I hope the Yankees win this game, but Hernandez actually pitched pretty well against in his last couple of starts. CC ended up joining the 3,000 strikeout club in his last start, but he is still not the pitcher he once was, and he's probably going to go a maximum 5 innings. And the Yankees actually were the beneficiaries of a shortened game yesterday You had a lot of weather issues with their game against the Twins. It only went 8 innings, but Chapman did pitch, so you have to wonder if he will be pitching again in this game. Mariners come off a 10-0 win. Personally, I'd lean to the Mariners at a slight underdog price here. I think the Yankees could win this game, but the Mariners have been good against lefties this year, and I think that you're laying too much of a number with CC in the spot, so I will lean to the Mariners in that one. Moving on, you have Baltimore versus Boston. Boston's favored by roughly minus 185. I'm not even going to cap this game. I think that the Red Sox will win this game easily. They have been clicking, with the exception of that walk-off home run they gave up against the White Sox they have been cruising, which is something that you've expected after the World Series hangover finally, came to an end. And the Orioles are terrible. Total's at 9.5. I'd lean to the over in this game, and I would lean towards the Red Sox team total over because they are the away teams who will be getting a full 9 at-bats, as well as the Boston first 5 team total over. But in terms of this game, Red Sox minus 185. I think it makes sense. I don't really know much about Smith, who's pitching for Boston, but I know that the Orioles pitching, whether it's the starters, the bullpen, are all terrible. And I think the Red Sox will continue to roll pretty easily. Moving on, you have the Twins and the Blue Jays. Blue Jays open up at minus 120 down to minus 105. Total's been bet from 8.5 to 9 in one spot, but it's mostly 8.5 market wide. Perez versus Stroman. I'm leaning to the Twins here. I know that Stroman's a better pitcher than Perez, and he has been pitching well this season despite the lack of results. And that Toronto's had a recent, I'd say surge is a strong word, but they were nowhere near 500. Now they're roughly around 500. I'm still leaning to the Twins. I know they lost 2 out of 3 to the Yankees, but this team's offense is still fantastic. Whether it's Rosario or Cruz or anybody that they really have, they still have a very solid lineup. And I think that they will be able to get the Stroman. And I have issues with the Blue Jays' consistency when it comes to generating runs in any given game. Vladimir Guerrero has been okay at best so far in his stint with the MLB, but I'll pick it up eventually. But just that is not how it's going right now. But I will lean to the Twins as I think they have a better overall team. There's a reason why they are in the playoff picture at this point in time. Moving on, you have Tampa Bay versus Arizona. Over-under at 7.5 at minus 130 on Bet Online with heavy juice to the under. And you also have the Rays favored at roughly minus 194 on Bet Online. The Diamondbacks kind of screwed me yesterday after blowing a 4-run lead in the 8th inning. But overall, with the exception of that, I still lean to Tampa. I know that I'm not being biased about Arizona. I just think Arizona was on a hot streak, and I like them, and Colorado's on a cold streak. But I just don't like Arizona's bullpen. I think Tampa Bay will be able to get the job done at home. It is worth mentioning that Snell has not been the same since he came back from the DL with his arm issue. But I still like Tampa. I think Tampa Bay will be able to do enough for Tropicana to get this win. And Kelly's been better at home than away. So I think that Tampa Bay will be able to get the job done in this game. Do I like laying minus 194? No. I personally would lean a little bit to the over. Snell's been inconsistent, and Arizona's bullpen's not great, and Kelly's, I'd say, average at best. So I'd personally lean to the over 7.5 in this game because it's also in a dome, so you don't have to worry about weather. Moving on, you have the Brewers versus the Nationals. Scherzer versus Chacin. I understand why the money's coming on the Nationals so far, as they're up to roughly minus 115 in most spots. But that's mostly just because of Scherzer. I'm still leaning to the Brewers. Brewers just swept the Mets, and the Nationals did win their last game against the Phillies, but that bullpen is still terrible. Chacin was actually good in his last start against the Rockies, and I just like the Brewers, especially with Yelich back in the lineup, who homered again yesterday. I agree that Scherzer's a great pitcher, but unless he goes 8 innings, I'm not looking to trust the Nationals at any point. And I think that an even better bet in this game would actually be the second half or the last 4 innings money line on the Brewers, so you can isolate that Nationals bullpen because it is terrible. And I think that you still get Hader. I know he's been a little bit inconsistent this year as opposed to recent years, but you still get Hader, and I still like the Brewers bullpen as a whole. So I would lean to the Brewers in the full game, and I would lean to the Brewers even a stronger lean on the second half money line. Moving on, you have the Cardinals and the Phillies with Velasquez versus Mikolas. Cardinals just got smacked, as I thought they would, on Sunday Night Baseball against the Cubs. Probably should have picked that as play of the day. Yep, Legendary King, you can do that. It's all good. Welcome to Stat Salt. I know that you're probably looking for some type of content at roughly 3 in the morning or even 4 in the morning, depending on your time zone. But either or, I'm just covering the baseball. So if you want to listen to some leans, you're more than welcome to join us. In this game, Phillies just won 2 out of 3 against the Nationals, but their bullpen has been struggling, and Bryce Harper is still yet to produce. Cardinals got killed by the Cubs, which I thought they would, but it was also a bad spot, being as how it was in Wrigley with the wind blowing out, and the Cubs have currently won 7 straight. So I'm not going to read much into it. I would lean to the Cardinals in the spot. Velasquez either strikes out a lot of batters or he gets absolutely torched, and I think that the Cardinals will do a nice job of bouncing back at home. So I will lean to Mikolas, and the Cardinals are roughly minus 125 or minus 126 in most spots. Moving on, you have the Cubs versus the Marlins with Hamels versus Alcantara. We actually had a play of the day winner a couple of weeks ago on this exact pitching matchup between Hamels and Alcantara, and the Marlins didn't even score, and Cubs won roughly 6-0. Cubs are favored by minus 145, by minus 245, I should say. It makes a lot of sense. Cubs are rolling. Marlins are terrible as they lost 3-1 to the Braves in extra innings yesterday. In terms of this game, there's not much value on the Cubs unless you take the minus 2.5 run line, but they're also at home, so they're only going to be playing. They're only going to be getting 8 at bats. It's not worth it. In terms of where I'd lean for value, I'd lean to the under in the first 5 in the full game on the team total for the Marlins. Hamels shut them out in his last start. The Marlins still can't hit, and Jeter's done everything he can to completely gut the entire team. As you've seen people like Dietrich, Ozuna, and Yelich thrive, and Real Muto as well, thrive on their new teams, as the Marlins' best hitter right now is probably Sterling Castro, maybe, just as a true testament to how awful this team is. So for me, I would lean to the Marlins team total under and the first 5 team total under, and I think the Cubs will win that game pretty easily. Moving on, you have the Astros versus the Royals. Houston's went from minus 250 favorites to minus 275 with Colin Junis on the mound. The over-under's at 8. Personally, I'd lean to the over. Do I think the Astros will win the game? Of course, but laying 283 in a baseball game is absolutely just nothing I want to be a part of. I think the Astros will win. Maybe go look to first 5 minus a half, or even the full game minus 1.5. But you're also the home team, so you're only getting 8 at bats on the, as if you're taking the full game run line, which is why I would lean a little bit more to the first half minus a half. But I'd lean to the over. It's even 7.5 in some spots with Bookmaker and Heritage. I think Junis isn't great, and I think that the Royals bullpen's terrible. I think Cole's good. I think Cole's a very solid pitcher, but he does have the tendency to kind of get too focused on strikeouts, and he'll eventually miss his spots a couple of times. And I think that the Royals could score a couple of runs minimally, and I think that the Astros should score at least 5 or 6 runs in this game. So I would personally lean to the Astros first 5 team total, as well as the Astros minus a half and the over 7.5. Moving on, you have the Braves and the Dodgers with Buehler versus Gassman on the mound. Only one line is up right now. It's U-Wager. The over-under is at 7.5 with minus 120 to the under. And the money line is on the Dodgers are the favorites at minus 142. In this game, I'll lean to the Dodgers. Gassman hasn't been great in his last couple of starts. Plus, the Braves played an extra innings game yesterday and then had to fly to Los Angeles. So I personally think the Dodgers will be able to get the job done at home. And I will be siding with Buehler in this spot. Not to mention the fact that the Braves bullpen has not been much to write home about. So I will be leaning to the Dodgers in that one. Moving on, you have the Mets versus the Padres. DeGrom versus Paddock. The Mets are favored by minus 115 up to minus 120 at Intertops. And the total is current. This game, in terms of the over-under, I'd have to lean to the over 6.5 here, but there's no way I'm touching that total here. Mets offense has been terrible. They got absolutely destroyed by the Brewers this past weekend. And the Padres have been pretty good lately, but I'm not really a big fan of Paddock, so he could potentially get roughed up a bit, and I'm not going against DeGrom. For me, I'm looking at the Mets only in this game. You get DeGrom at minus 115. That looks like a sweet deal to me. I know the Mets offense hasn't been great, but as a whole, you get the defending Cy Young winner in a minus 115 spot against Paddock and the Padres. So I will personally lean to the Mets in that game. But those are all the baseball games that we will be giving leans on. I'll briefly, and I say very briefly, go over the NBA games tomorrow. If you want to fade me, I don't blame you in the NBA. But I feel like I should still at least talk about it and just give my thoughts on the game itself. Early game, you have the Bucks versus the Celtics, in which the total is at 221. Celtics are favored by minus 1.5. For me, I would lean to the Celtics in this game, and I would lean to the over. My thoughts on this is that the Bucks have played extremely well. They played really well in Game 3, but the fact that the Celtics are still favored by 1.5, I find a little bit odd to me. I know the Celtics won Game 1 convincingly, but since then they've gotten pretty much demolished by Milwaukee's athleticism in the three-point shooting. And now you're telling me that the Celtics should be favored by 1.5. That one doesn't really make any sense, which is why I personally think that the Celtics will end up pulling out this win. I think if you saw what happened in Game 3, the Bucks should probably be favored. by, I'd say, maybe a point or two. In fact, the Celtics are makes me believe the Celtics are the right side. So I will lean to the Celtics, and I will lean to the over because of the Bucks' willingness to push the pace. And in the late game, you have Golden State versus Houston. Houston at -1.5, and the total's at 221. I would personally lean to the under again in that game, and I would lean to the Warriors. I know that the Rockets won the last game in Game 3, but they choked a big lead, had to win in overtime. I think Golden State will win this game. I still think they're the better team, so I will be taking the Golden State Warriors. But the tennis plays of the day that I already posted on my Twitter, I like Munar moneyline at -110, and I like Tiafoe and Basilashvili over 2.5 sets at +175. Other than that, there is no play today, as I will be cramming for my last college exam of my life. So hopefully that works out well. But other than that, good luck to all of you and your respective bets on Monday, May 6th.